Someone has been messing with Deadpool's life since the start of his latest comic book series, and now they're about to make it personal. Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues of comic books, and I break them down into digestible bites before reading them dramatically back to you, which typically involves epic music and weird voices. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. If you've been following along with our latest Deadpool storylines, then you know of an individual called Madcap that has been trying to mess with his life. Well, he's about to make it much worse for Wade. It was a cool winter night as two Santa Claus impersonators headed off to work, robbing a diamond store. For these two impersonators, it was a yearly tradition to celebrate the reason for the season, and that's for money. As the two robbers run into the back alley, we discover that they are Wade Wilson and Hydra Bob as they pull off their costumes. And Wade notices that Hydra Bob has put on a little bit of weight, and he tells him that Hydra should really secretly take over a fitness center for the Hydra agents. Bob laughs and agrees, and Wade says that now it's time for him to sprinkle his magic rocks on a hobo and turn him into an insufferable thousandaire. As Wade pours the diamonds on the hobo, he shouts, "Oh yeah, make it rain, Spider-Man!" And Wade tells him, because it's Christmas, he will not kill him. Bob then asks Wade if he wants to go get something to eat, and Wade tells him that he can't. He actually has some serious stuff to do. As Wade rides off, the sirens begin to blare, and Bob asks, "Wait, where's my getaway bike?" After a bit of a ride, Wade begins to think about how he picked up a nemesis, and he's not really sure how he did it. In fact, he doesn't even know his actual name. All he knows is that this person is called Madcap. So what better place to figure this person out than to return to the place where it all started, the place where Madcap was born. There was an accident that left Madcap laying in a pool of chemicals, and when he woke up, he went crazy! So he did what any normal person would do, and he tried to kill himself, but that's when he found out that he doesn't feel pain and he can regenerate from any wound. So along with some fate and fancy lightning, Wade and Madcap were electrocuted by Thor, and Madcap got to experience all of the joys of being stuck in Wade's head while their healing factors combined, turning them into one individual. But that was Deadpool. Madcap was the voice in his head. But since he's now broken free of Wade's head, and he saw what was in Wade's head, that would kind of explain why Madcap kind of hates Wade right now. A little while later, Wade heads over to the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier to see Preston for some information. She asks if he's been sleeping at crime scenes again, and he tells her that he's not. And as Preston looks at the crime scene tape stuck to Wade's boots, she asks if he wants to rethink his answer. Wade shrugs, asking, "How do you always know when I'm lying?" After pulling the tape off of his boot, Preston says that S.H.I.E.L.D. has no leads on Madcap. Even the scientists who made him are dead. Moments later, Preston's office door opens up and Adsit walks in seeing Wade, and he just says that he'll come back later. After he leaves, Wade whispers, "Is it me, or has Adsit gained a little weight?" With no further information to gather, Preston walks Wade out and Wade begins to climb into his jet. He says that he got an invite to Sunday's dinner, so he'll see her then. And Preston says, "Yeah, don't do that, you're not invited. Also, get out of that jet." Wade gives her a thumbs up and shouts, "I can't hear you when I do this," and he presses the eject button. The hatch on the jet pops open and Wade rockets into the sky shouting, "My whole planet needs me!" Once Wade lands in the park, he gets a text from an unknown number stating, "Boop." Wade begins to think that this could be Madcap, and he responds to the unknown number like any normal person would. "New phone, who dis?" A second message then comes in stating that he belongs in a zoo, and Wade knows that there's a zoo nearby, which means that this is probably a trap. Wade sneaks into the zoo and then he begins to hear someone stating, "Boop," over and over again. And that's when he sees a group of zoo workers all in masks stating, "Boop." The staff rush at Wade and he tells them that he doesn't want to kill them, but that doesn't mean he won't hurt them. He manages to fight off a few of the workers, but one of them pulls out a tranq gun and fires it into Wade's chest. He runs over punching the shooter, screaming, "F you!" and then he begins to wobble. The workers all rush in and they knock Wade into the penguin pit. One worker stabs Wade with a broken broom and Wade grabs a penguin and throws it at the man. Wade then pulls himself out of the pit, but all of the workers then dogpile onto him, holding him down, and they spray a mist into his face. With Wade finally not being able to fight back, a voice then asks, "Who wants to see the tigers? Feed the beast." All of the workers then begin climbing into the cage of the tiger pit, and Wade tries to shout for them to stop. But one by one, the workers throw themselves into the pit to be mauled by the tigers. The voice then tells him, "I would prefer no witnesses, and I'm still not at full strength yet." Wade looks up to see a growth on a man's chest, and Madcap shouts, "I did it! I destroyed you!" And Wade asks, "What happened to you?" Madcap tells him that he'll find a new home until he can pull himself back together again. But he is so glad that he's had a chance to watch Wade die. The next morning, Wade's body is being examined when suddenly he wakes up in the middle of the procedure. He tells the doctors that he feels like hell, and then he looks down at his open chest cavity. One of the doctors says that he can see why, and Wade tells him that could he just do him a favor and throw everything back where he found it and close the hood? A short game of operation later, the doctor tells Wade that they had to cut away his clothes, but he can have them back, and Wade tells them to go ahead and throw them out. Afterwards, Wade heads back to the Avengers Theater, and he finds it closed down, and the foreman tells Wade that he's been a hard man to find. The bill is due. Wade walks in telling him to just send it to the office, and the foreman stops him stating, "We all have bills to pay, but my bosses are the kind of people who tend to settle things out of court." Wade looks at him and tells him to go ahead and tell his not mafia-controlled bosses that the money is on the way. And if they don't like it, they can come see him and his guns right here about it. And he slams the door shut. As Wade walks around, he sees no one there, and then he sees a stack of bills on his desk. Flipping through the bills, he comes up with an idea that he could pay the mafia, but he would need some work clothes. A short while later, at the horse racing track, some mafia men load their safe with money, and Wade bursts in shouting, "It's the inferior Spider-Man!" After kicking and taking out the thugs, Wade begins to sing the Spider-Man theme, clearly not knowing the words. And once he's done, he begins to fill his bag with the mafia money and he makes a break for it, which has him immediately stopped as Wade is blasted in the back with gunfire. Ow, this suit's a rental! He then jumps out the window and he runs over to the stables, and as he gets there, he punches one of the thugs, and then he punches a horse. Then he realizes what he did. "Sorry, horse, I got carried away. Please forgive," but the horse then kicks him before he can even finish. A short while later, Wade returns to the theater handing the foreman a sack of money. The foreman says that his bosses will be glad that he paid in cash, and Wade says that he's sure the cash missed his boss. He then hops into a cab just as Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, returns, and he tells Johnny to deposit the rest of this money into the group's main account. Johnny asks why doesn't he just do it, and Wade drives off stating that he really shouldn't be seen with that money right now. The cab driver asks where he's headed, and just then Wade gets a message stating that dinner's ready from Preston. He tells the driver to take him over to Queens, and as he arrives, Preston begins to ask him, "Seriously? Who invited you?" Wade holds up his phone telling her that she did. Here's the message! And then the two of them look inside to see Ellie, Deadpool's daughter. Wade says to himself, she's a clever girl, and he walks off. He tells Preston to tell her that he never got her a message. Preston sighs and tells him, "Fine, stay for dinner. Just don't break anything or kill anyone." Wade heads inside all happy, saying hello to his family, and soon they all sit down for dinner. But while they eat, Wade receives a call from ANAD. He heads outside to answer the call, and he asks Wade where he's at right now. Wade tells him that he's feeling a little emotionally vulnerable after the Unity Squad implosion, financially insecure after the Deadpool Merc slowed down, and he's trying to keep his chin up. Or did ANAD mean where is he physically right now? ANAD confirms, so Wade tells him that he's currently outside of Preston's house. And ANAD tells him, "Good, don't go inside. Both of the corners are dead. There's something that was on your uniform that the doctors threw out, and whatever it is, it's weaponized and it's deadly." Wade falls silent, and ANAD asks if he's still there, and Wade says, "Madcap said he would destroy me." He looks back inside of the house and falls to his knees as he watches Ellie and the rest of his family dying. Once being cleared that she wasn't infected, Preston looks out at the rest of the family asking what's the prognosis. ANAD says that the doctors felt the safest thing to do was to put her family into a medically induced coma to buy them some time to get answers. She then asks, "Are they going to die?" And ANAD tells her all she can do right now is be here for them. She then turns and asks, "Where's Wade?" ANAD explains that they're currently examining him, and Preston runs over to the containment room where Wade is being placed. She tells him that she needs answers right now, and Wade says that he needs to be out of here finding Madcap right now. They can either let him go or he can break out. Either way, he's willing to cross the lines that S.H.I.E.L.D. wouldn't. ANAD tells Preston that it might not be worth the risk of having Wade around, and then she asks if the facility has a crematorium. Over in the furnace room, ANAD comments that this is the first time they're putting someone into the furnace alive, and the doctor says the heat is beyond 330 degrees. It's hot enough to kill anything, including the virus. But as the doctor goes to turn the switch off, Preston tells him not yet. She wants to make sure that her idiot is well done. A little while later outside, Preston says that she's already starting to regret this, and Wade asks why. She tells him because he's putting his boots on before his pants. Well, excuse me, I never really think about these things when I'm getting baked on high. Once Wade is finished suiting up, Preston asks where they're headed first, and he tells her to his old stomping ground, Sister Margaret's School for Wayward Children. The two head over to that bar, and after roughing a few of the men up, Wade asks if anyone here is selling viruses. One of the men shouts that he isn't afraid of him, and even if he was, he wouldn't be afraid just because he brought some law woman with him. And Wade tells him, "You got it all wrong. I'm actually protecting you from her." The man goes on shouting, and Preston grabs the man's hand, crushing it. Everyone else in the bar begins giving suggestions of who, including a woman stating that her boyfriend has the virus, but probably not the one that they're looking for. So Wade and Preston begin to beat up some Hydra agents, and then some wizards, and then some people over at the Hellfire Club. But while they end up taking down some people who were on their way to poison a Baccarat championship, Wade punts a guy with his minigun while Preston shouts that they're running out of time. Wade begins to stop and think. Madcap must be close. He wants to watch as he destroys my life. And Preston reminds him that Madcap has been currently growing on people like a parasite. So who's put on a few pounds lately? Both Wade and Preston turn to each other and state, "Adsit!" Over at Adsit's apartment, he sits looking through his telescope at the stars when suddenly there's a barrel of a gun as Wade tells him to check out his black hole. Wade grabs Adsit, telling him to take his shirt off, and Adsit shouts, "What the hell is wrong with you? You can't!" But Preston stops him, telling him to do it. Wade points his gun at Adsit, telling him, "Lift your shirt and do the truffle shuffle." So, he does, stating that some people are driven to panic eating. Wade pokes him in the stomach, telling him, "I just wanted to make sure." So Preston tells the two of them to stop, she's getting a message. And then she says they're out of time. It's time for them to go be with the kids. Wade turns back to Adsit and tells him that he's sorry about the telescope, but Adsit tells him it's fine. He wasn't hurt too bad. And then Wade shoots it, asking, "Are you sure about that?" Back at the helicarrier, Preston tells Wade that she was grateful at the chance to adopt Ellie. It made being friends with him worth it, but look at what he's done. After slamming Wade into the wall a few times, she tells him he better do whatever he needs to do to undo this. It doesn't matter what it costs. So Wade heads out, calling the only person that he knows who would have an antidote for the virus. Cable, also known as Strife in the future. Wade asks what's it going to cost him for the cure, but he tells him not to worry about it now. He has a plan for him to work it off. A little while later, back at the helicarrier, Preston sits as her husband Terry's condition gets worse. She tells the doctor that Terry has a do not resuscitate if he's going to be brain damaged. But while her and the doctor go over what to do next, Wade runs in shouting that he has it. He has the cure. Just check for a blood clot that's forming in Terry's right leg. The doctors rush over with the cure and Preston asks how. And Wade tells her that she should be asking when. Preston begins crying, stating that she could kiss that glowing-eyed silver fox named Cable. And Wade says so can he, that he needs to borrow her phone for a moment. He hooks the phone up to a device and begins scanning it. Preston asks if Madcap maybe spoofed her phone. Wade tells her that Ellie didn't send him the text, Madcap did. And if he isn't very careful, they should be able to backtrack him. A ping goes off on the device and Wade says, now the question is whether they go alone or... And Preston says alone. They will go alone for this. Wade and Preston take off and she calls Wade's phone, leaving a voice message stating how everyone is dead and it's all his fault. Once they get into position, Wade jumps down into the abandoned factory. Preston then parks, continuing to leave the message. All the while, Madcap is listening in on that message, laughing, thinking that he's won. And the man that Madcap is attached to begins to state, oh no, and Hydra Bob is that man. Oh god, not those poor kids. And Madcap tells him, be quiet, you're ruining it! The phone call goes on as Preston asks Wade if he knows what his daughter's last words were. Mommy, please find Madcap in that abandoned factory and rip his heart out and send him to hell. That's when Madcap realizes he's been played. Uh-oh. And Bob tells him, they know. A boom goes off, shaking the building, and Madcap hits Bob in the groin, telling him that he didn't follow the safety precautions. After vomiting all over Madcap from the hit, Madcap tells him, you just signed your death warrant, boobity Bob. Elsewhere in the factory, Wade runs in, guns blazing, shooting down Hydra agents. As a few of them try to surround him, the agents hear a crack in the ceiling, and Preston comes crashing down, killing them. Another agent throws his weapon and his arms up, stating, please just arrest me. And Wade looks at him and shoots him, telling him, ain't nobody got time for that. Another agent shouts that he surrenders, just don't let Deadpool take him. And Preston punches through his stomach, telling him, I'm off the clock. Wade runs into the next room shouting that he knows that it's Bob. And Bob tells him, I'm sorry, but Madcap made me be quiet. I just thought it was a tumor. And I was really bummed when I found out I didn't have cancer. Wade walks up to arrest Bob/Madcap. And Preston runs in shouting that she will slide a ghost trap underneath his creepy ass. Wade stops her and tells Madcap that he went to the site of his accident. He knows all about him. Even that he woke up in the hospital screaming for his sister Katie. And then Wade tells him, I'm pretty sure she didn't exist. But whatever you think happened, didn't actually happen. Bob tells him not to antagonize him. Madcap has a tendril wrapped around his heart and he rigged the place to explode. And Wade tells him, who gives a crap about bombs? They can't kill me. Preston here is a murder bot, so... Bob screams in pain and he presses the button and the explosions go off. Wade tells Madcap that he may blame him for what he's become, but he was always a monster. And by the way, the kids are fine, so thanks for asking. Madcap jumps from Bob's stomach shouting, that can't be! You were supposed to destroy yourself! As Madcap claws away at Wade's face, the two fall over the rails, and Wade snaps his spine. Madcap begins to crawl away, stating, I'll boop you later! After escaping, Wade and Preston fly back, stating that they need to find a permanent solution for Madcap. And Wade tells her that he's gonna have to go away for a while to make that happen. As the two walk back into the medical office, Preston asks if the kids are ready to go home. Wade turns to Ellie and tells her to bump him, and she asks if she's gonna get poisoned again. And Wade says that there's only one way to find out. Preston then tells Wade to thank the Silver Fox again for the cure, and Wade thinks back to his meeting with Nate. Nate says that he'll save lives for him, but in return, he's going to have to claim 4 lives for him. Wade asks who's he gonna have to kill, and Nate says not to worry about it, just think about it as a long-term payment plan. Yeah, well, I don't really want to be your bitch, but the cost is too high. Nate walked off, stating that as they speak, Terry had a clot forming in his leg, and he'll be the first to die. And then he told Wade that his parents already paid the price for bringing him into this world. Does he really want to let the next generation die too? Is he prepared to compromise just a little and do whatever Strife wants him to do? The story of Wade versus Madcap is heating up, and it will come to its eventual conclusion because Madcap can't exist with how far he's taking this. But personally, this is still one of my favorite Marvel books, and I hope it is for you as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep up to date on what's happening in the Deadpool books. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Comicstorian, where we can discuss your favorite stuff, and I'll see you next time right here.